Hi, welcome to Poor Man's Barbecue. I just want to say that this is my very first video, and what you're gonna see is really cheesy and could definitely have been better. But as I move on, I'll work on making better videos and maybe find a better backdrop. You'll see what I'm talking about. I was learning how to edit. There's a lot of stuff I don't know how to do editing yet, so there's some things in here that are kind of like, well, okay, what is going on? But watch the video, you get some information out of it, and I hope you like it. And I'll be trying to post a video about every week, but we'll see how it goes. I'll talk to you soon, and thanks for tuning in again. Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be cooking a smoked ham. This ham weighs about 8.5 pounds. It is bone in. We're going to be removing all of the exterior of this and exposing the nice pink flesh. But first, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our dry rub that we're going to apply to this. So the dry rub basically consists of brown sugar, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, and cumin. So first we're going to add a very healthy dose of brown sugar. This will do a great job of caramelizing on the meat, and it's going to help create our bark. Now we're going to add quite a bit of this. This is basically going to be the base. Other people will use paprika or onion powder or things like that as the base. I always use the brown sugar, and then I augment it with the other spices. Next I'm going to add in some paprika. Now I don't measure anything, as you can already tell. We're just going to add that in. Probably, I don't know, about 1/4 cup. We got garlic powder here. We're going to add that. This is all to taste. And we want to add in a little bit of onion powder. Now, of course, I don't measure anything, so you may want to actually look up your own recipes. I will, in the future, be doing a much more precise show on the rubs. Now we're adding in a little bit of cumin. I don't want a lot of this, I just want a little bit. Cumin goes a long way. Now I need something to mix it with. We'll just edit that little bit out. Alright, now we just want to mix this up. And I'm going to add a little bit more paprika. Now I'm going to add a little bit more paprika. That's probably about another 2 tablespoons. You want to make sure you get all the little oils of the brown sugar broken up. You want to get a nice consistent mix of spices here. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right. Now we're going to start trimming the ham. Okay, now we're going to start trimming the ham. As you can see, this is a store-bought ham. I did not make this. This has been cured, supposedly smoked cured, but let's be honest, they basically spray it with a smoky water, then they just leave it in a heated room. That's what they consider smoking. That's not smoking as far as I'm concerned. This skin and fat and smoke layer on the outside, we want to go ahead and remove all of this. The skin and these layers will prohibit our smoke that we're using today from penetrating this meat. So let's go ahead and clean this up. Now you never want to remove too much. You don't want to be taking off half an inch. You basically just want to get that color off, and when there's big areas of fat, you want to remove as much of the fat as you can. The fat is just going to end up blocking the smoke from penetrating the meat, and you'll have areas that won't develop a bark if you have too much fat on them. So I'm basically just cutting off slivers here. It does help if you keep your knives razor sharp. I mean razor sharp. And I find that on a cut of meat like this, really the best knife to use, in my opinion, is a deboning knife. I suppose a fillet knife would work just as well, but I just prefer the deboning knives. You definitely don't need something big and heavy like an 8-inch French chef knife. We're just trying to remove some skin. Now here you can see we've got quite a bit of fat. So one thing I neglected to do was to put on gloves. Now some people prefer it, some people don't. It does help keep your hands clean and the food sanitary. It's a personal choice. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. But we're going to be getting into the messy part of the job right here. Alright, gloved up. Alright, so we've got a lot of fat in here on the top, on the side, around here. Now this is natural in this particular type of cut. You're going to encounter a lot of fat in here. It's a lot leaner over this portion. We're going to leave that pretty much the way it is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove probably about 1/4 inch of this fat. I want to see a little bit of pink come through. And that's just about right. You can see I got the fat and there's just a little bit of the flesh. And that's really what we're looking for. Alright. And you don't want to go overboard. You don't want to just be cutting off chunks of meat. You want to basically just get that fat, and that's it. Alright, I don't think we're done removing fat. There's a little bit left here I want to get off, not much. We do leave a little bit. It's not going to hurt it. Now this is a part where people will debate on this. Most people will like to score their meat. This allows, during the basting process, the smoke and the base to both really penetrate into the meat. You're going to be able to get in there about a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to cross hatch this all the way around. And I'm going to give it probably between a 1/2 inch and a 1 inch deep cut all the way through. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to transfer this to a pan, a tin pan. We're going to use that for the actual smoking process. Now make sure you get the glue out of the inside of your pan. It doesn't taste good. Smoker is currently at 307 with the flues all the way open. We're going to let that rest at that temperature for a little bit. We're going to build up some coals in there. Okay, we are now going to add this to the pan. Okay. Now we're going to coat this pretty heavily with our rub. But the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to use a binder. And in the case of pork, there really is no binder better than mustard. I think that's pretty universally agreed. Today I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a spicy brown mustard. Sometimes I just use a regular classic yellow, but today I feel like a little spicy brown. And you just want to make sure it's shaken up. And we're going to add this very liberally. Now the mustard and the pork combination is really a great combo. Now you want to rub it in very thoroughly. You want to be generous with it. You want to make sure you have coverage everywhere on it. If you feel like you don't have enough coverage, add more mustard. You want to get that pretty much everywhere. Now that's pretty well covered. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our dry rub. And this is the rub we just mixed up a couple of minutes ago. So I just grab handfuls and I just put it right on there. I pack it on. I want to get a nice coverage on this. I mean, we're not looking for it to be a super thick coverage. We are going to be basting this or mopping, depends on who you want to talk to. Today I'm going to be using a turkey baster because it's just going to be easier, because I'm going to be using the juices that are coming out of this. Alright, now that's very well covered. Now we have one other thing we're going to add to this, and that's actually a little bit of Coca-Cola. So So when you're cooking a ham in the smoker, you do want to add some moisture, but I also want to have a little bit of sweetness in there. So there's a couple of ways you can go about this. One, you can use, and I've done this quite a few times, you can use apple juice, you can use apple cider, lots of different juices, pineapple juice, the citrus juices work pretty well. But today I just want to go for a nice dark color, and I also want to add some sweetness to this in addition to the brown sugar. So what we're going to use is we're going to use a little bit of cola here. And we're not adding much. We're going to put about a 1/4 inch in the bottom of the pan, and that's it. The meat itself will render quite a bit, and it's going to add its own flavors. And this will create a beautiful baste. Alright, now we're just going to let this sit. We're going to let this come up to room temperature. This is going to take about 45 minutes. It's already pretty warm. Our smoker is now sitting at 303. So I'm going to go out there in a couple of minutes and I'm going to check the fire, see how we're looking for coals. I'd like to get this in the smoker within the next half hour. This will be about a 4 to a 5 hour smoke. It will develop a beautiful bark. All of those cuts we made, the cross hatching we made, they're going to open up. They're going to grab the smoke. They're going to grab the mop. They're going to grab all of this beautiful base and sugars. They're going to caramelize, and it's going to have a beautiful, nice, sweet bark on it. It'll take to develop the bark. It'll start developing in about an hour and a half to 2 hours in the smoke. We'll be checking the smoker about once an hour. At that time, we will baste the meat. So I'll see you guys in a few minutes once the smoker's ready to put this in. Alright, so this is a smoker. This is a 200-gallon expansion tank from an old compressor. Cut indoors. We've got wood gasket seals all around. It's very airtight, very efficient on fuel. This is the fire pit, and then I have 3 levels of trays to smoke on. So I start the fire generally with charcoal, and I use a charcoal chimney to get started. I don't ever use any kind of fuels other than that. I will never use lighter fluid, gasoline, diesel, any of those sort of things to start this fire. It'll be done only with charcoal, at which point when it comes to coals, I will add the wood. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about this smoker. So I built this about 2 years ago. This is the 3rd smoker I've built. I started doing smokers, I guess about 20 years ago. I got interested in smoking foods, and I started off with just your regular Brinkman vertical smoker. It was a small one, very thin, did okay for learning. And then I moved up to a offset horizontal smoker. That was better, but it was difficult to maintain the temperature. I did build a permanent smoker made from cinder block, and I used that one for about 7, maybe 8 years. And I built this one 2 springs ago. This is made from a 200-gallon expansion tank from an old compressor from a fabrication shop that I work at. We're moving facilities, and this was going to go to the scrapyard, and I said that is going to be my brand new smoker. So this took me about 20 hours to build. I do build these and sell them. If you're interested, I'll put a link below. Yeah, so that's this. Okay, the charcoal is lit, and we're going to let that turn to coal, and then we're going to add our wood. Okay, so the coals are about where I want them. I'm going to add wood to this now, and I use only hardwood. When I can, I tend to use red oak. I love the flavor it imparts. It's great with beef, poultry. If you're using a light smoke, it's good with that. Today we're going to be making a ham, and this will be the perfect smoke for a ham. I don't ever use any kind of accelerant. I will only use the chimney. The accelerants, like lighter fluid, they tend to leave a harsh residue, and it will contaminate the interior of your smoker, which will in turn contaminate your meats or whatever it is you're smoking. So I'm going to go ahead and add some wood to this, and let's build some embers. Okay, we got a nice little fire going down the firebox. We're going to let that turn to coals. I'm going to close her up now, and I've got my flues open on both sides all the way. And I'm going to try and bring this temperature up to about 250. I want it to be a steady 250 for about half an hour. These will turn into a nice set of coals. Basically what I want is mostly coals and maybe one log burning at a time. It'll take just about 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes to reach temperature. Depends a lot on the ambient temperature outside. Today we're looking at it's about 42 here in New England. So this I figure will take me probably about 45 to an hour before I can put food on here. Now the other thing we're going to want to do, it was just open, so we're looking at the temperature is climbing back up. We were at about 253. Right now it's about 130 in there. I want to open up my fire pit here and let's take a look at the wood, see if we need to add anything. Well, we don't really have a lot of coals developed in here yet, so it's going to be a fight for about the next hour, hour and a half to keep this thing at a good temperature. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add another log and we'll let that go for about an hour. I'll come out and check it. Alright, we've got ourselves some wood in there. I've got the larger flue open. This, as it is a custom built smoker, doesn't have your traditional type flues. What it does have is on the sides here. These are ports for steel pipe. This was a air compressor, and this is where you would attach your lines to send your air wherever it is to whatever tool or machine you're using. So there's one on either side. One is larger than the other. That has 1.5 inches, and that has a 2 inch. So right now the 2 inches closed up. We're just going to go off of the 1.5 inches. It may not be quite enough airflow, but I'll be checking consistently to see what the temperature is. And if I have to open one and close the other, or open them both, then that's what I'll do. Okay, well, we've got an internal temperature on the smoker right now of 248 degrees. That is pretty much the perfect territory for smoking. Most people will say they like to smoke at a lower temperature. You know, obviously, a lot of people will recommend 220 to 225. I prefer about 230 to 250 on my heat range. It cooks a little bit faster, but it still renders just as well as anything cooked at a lower temperature. It's only going to decrease my cooking time maybe about 10 minutes per pound at the very most. But I prefer a little bit higher cooking temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my meat right in now. Alright, so the ham is now in the smoker. It is in the center rack. I don't need it to be a real high heat, so I'm going to keep it off the lower rack and the higher racks. I'm going to keep it pretty much right in the middle. In this particular smoker, the middle rack tends to be the cooler rack and the most consistent heat. The first rack down there, right above my heating stone, that tends to run about 10 degrees higher than the middle rack. And again, at the top, that rack tends to run about 10 degrees higher than the middle rack as well. Now, I only know this because I've experimented with this smoker exhaustively, and I've put different temperature sensors on these shelves throughout the smoking process, and I've been able to monitor exactly where they register for temperature. We are going to go ahead and we're going to insert a meat thermometer, a digital meat thermometer, that will broadcast to my receiver inside what the internal temperature on this meat is. We're not really trying to cook this today as much as to bring it to a temperature. I'm looking to get this to between 160 and 170. At that point, it's ready to eat. Should have a beautiful bark on it, and it will be delicious. So when you're going to put a meat probe in, a thermometer, you kind of want to get it in the meatiest area on here as you can. We want to get it as close to the center of the meat. That'll give us the truest temperature. Now where this is bone in, the temperature difference in the middle, because of the bone, is going to be a little bit different. But we're going to go ahead and we're just going to insert it right here, and we want to get it about 2 or 3 inches in. Now we're hitting bone already. Here we go, there's a good spot. So I'm about 3 inches in. Now let's see what this is registering on the thermometer. My instant read, it's telling me it is a 42 degree temperature on that right now. So we've got to come up about 120 degrees. This is going to take us between 4 to 5 hours. All right, so here we are back down here. We are exactly 1 hour into the smoke. We're going to open up this smoker and we're going to take a look and see how it looks. So this is 1 hour in. My temperature was a little high on this. It did hit 300 at one point. I closed the flue, and we are now back down where we want to be at about 250. The internal temperature on this is now 78 degrees. So we are not quite halfway to where we want to get. But we're already developing a bit of a bark, and that is the brown sugar caramelizing on here. Usually when I'm doing the meats in the smoker, I do use a mop or a spray bottle. Today, however, I'm just going to baste it. So let's go ahead and do some basting here. And I just use a cheapo baster. I'm going to throw this one away at the end of the day. So let's get this all over here. And we want to cover, basically we want to get everything wet. And get down around the back side of it as well. When you're using these tin pans, one thing you do want to remember is that if you twist this on the grates, you might actually put a hole in the tin pan. So you have to be very careful about how you handle these pans. But that is already looking delicious, and I can't wait for this bark. So now that we have the temperature down a bit, the smoke should be a much better smoke. Might go a little faster than I thought because we initially had a little higher of a temperature. Alright, so we're basted pretty good. And while we have this open, let's take a look and see what we got for the what's going on in our fire pit. May need to add wood. Let's open her up and take a look. Nope, kind of a two-handed operation, honestly. Oops, there goes my thermometer. Alright, so yeah, we've got nice coals now. This will now be a very consistent fire. Usually that first hour can be all over the place. It was a little higher than normal. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add one substantial log. Got some beautiful oak here. So that log will give me a good solid hour. Alright, see you guys again in an hour. Okay, well here's the finished product. This is the ham. You can see we've developed a beautiful bark on here. It looks moist and juicy and just mouth-watering. So I did not show taking it off because it's a two-hand operation, and I was worried I would drop it on the ground. I'll be getting a GoPro for the next few videos coming up, and once I do, then I'll be a lot more comfortable doing that. And while you guys weren't looking, I also made some shotgun shells as an appetizer, or main course, or whatever you want to do. Anyways, there's the ham. I'm going to have dinner now, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for tuning in.